Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Warped Live, episode number 7, A World Gone QRAZY. It certainly has. Hello, Daniel James here with you again. Another week, 7 weeks in a row. I didn't think I'd be able to do that, but things are going quite well in our little schedule here, so good to see all of the early birds in chat as well again. Hey, Dobromir, hey, Lee Veltman, and PM. Nice to see you guys, and hopefully a few more come as we get a little bit more loaded into the stream. I was hoping to be able to get a nice coffee in before we started the stream, before we got too embedded into the Q consciousness. Unfortunately, I'm all out of coffee in the house, and also, unfortunately, it's Australia Day over here, a public holiday, so there's no coffee to be found anywhere in my neighbourhood, which is not good news. Not good news, because I need it. I need it for this stream, guys. I need it. Because, oh man, it has been an enormous week. It has been one of the biggest weeks in the QRAZY world, I think, probably ever. Mainly because, in my mind, we're moving through phases here. We had that phase of 2016 to 2020 of the Trump administration, which was a lot about this, more messenger type identity of Q and the Q drops and leaking this information out and getting it out there as some sort of intelligence op, if you will, to get that information out there. Well, that was what was being purported by the Q types. But we seem to be in a new phase of Q, and it's born out of the fact of, I guess, a new administration of government there in America, but also by the fact that there's only so many dates that you can keep floating to put forward with nothing happening before I think a sense comes where this whole collective community has been raised around QAnon, that it's hit the point where I think that action started, and that action started on January 6th with the shenanigans there at the Capitol building, ending in tragedy in some cases, mostly a circus. Mostly a real circus. But I think it's a big change. It's a big sequence change for the movement. It has gone, as I say, from that rise of the messenger drops into the collective action. And we're going to see that with reviewing. It's been so hard to keep up with, guys, because, man, my phone has just been blowing up. This whole, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on this one because I am a free speech advocate and I don't like when people are deplatformed. And for this very reason, because when it was on Twitter, it was visible. When it was on Facebook, it was visible. When it was on YouTube, everyone could see it, laugh at it, and it was visible. And now it's gone into these little burrows, these little rabbit holes across the internet. And they're just popping up like crazy. So Telegram, for those, if you're following and researching the Q movement, has been insane, has been absolutely going off. My phone has not stopped. I had to put a do not disturb on last night, otherwise I was going to get zero sleep, and I think I was probably up there until about 2 or 3 a.m. anyway, just sort of going through the latest, because I didn't want this stream to be terribly outdated by the time we got it out there. So I desperately wanted to gather all this information together and share it with you guys, because it is getting rampant. It is ramping up. And I think there are a lot of predictions about this year that I think there are some credence to. I'm not going to get all woo-woo and say that there's, going to be this big disclosure thing happening in 2021 or anything like that. Any of those other people that sort of push that, I mean, there's no sort of backing or solid information. It's all predictions, right? But what I do predict, based on what I see and based on what I hear in this Q world that's going crazy, is that it is going to ramp up. 2021, I think, is going to be a much more significant year of events, of action, of things happening in this world. And I will say, before we go too much into this crazy content, that I in no way support it. I'm not a Q supporter. I'm a journalist. I'm researching the Q movement. No way support or endorse any of their messages. I'm here to critique it and mostly laugh at it, guys. So, let's not take it too seriously. as well. But I mean, look, there are some things to take seriously, and we will look at those as we go along with the thread of information that we cover here today, because there are things happening in this community that are quite scary and that do have real life repercussions that are things that we need to stamp out and control. So we'll cover that when we get to it here, but I just did want to state at the top that, you know, for all the Google overlords that are listening, I don't tend to curb my words. I do talk about, you know, QAnon. I do use those words, and I do talk about Q. I think going forward, I'll see how it goes. I'll monitor the situation as it comes, but I may start using words more like the Q collective, because I think it is gone beyond this whole, you know, who is Q, identity of Q, and all this nonsense. I mean, I think Q's been many people with many grifts and many different intentions across that span of time from 2016 or late 2017 into 2020. That's insignificant at this point. What's significant is that there is this movement of people that are taking action, right? And that's what we need to keep our eye on. And that's what we're going to cover in today's episode. So I'll try not to keep you too long, perhaps probably about an hour. Try not to drift over that too far, but we've got a lot of ground to cover. In the last week, we've gone from, you know, the whole Q disappointment into, I would say at today, the Q types from what I'm monitoring across Telegram, across Gab, across Parler before it got yanked. There is a real sentiment here that things are, you know, the tide's turning their way in their minds, right? So please don't mistake me. I'm not speaking for me. I'm speaking on what I see covering here. And I will also say that we're going to be covering a lot of clips in today's show, and I will cite fair use. I'm doing this for the sole purpose of critiquing, shining a light and spotlighting this so everyone's aware just exactly what's happening in these communities. I think that's the best thing that we can do. We can put it all out there, we can shine some light on it, and we can have a little laugh along the way, but also in those serious moments where we need to actually show what's going on in this crazy world, we can bring attention to that as well. So I don't want to take away from the seriousness of some of the implications of these morons, basically, going around and doing some crazy stuff. So without further ado, I'll go over to my David Wilcock-like slides. Here we go. Is this going to work? Am I going to David Wilcock it up? Am I going to boomer it up? Let's see. Oh, no, I've got it. Wilcock, you got nothing on me, buddy. You and, you know, all your camera angles, nothing. All right, guys, we're now in QRAZY world. It's time to get aboard the Q woo-woo train. It's gone right off a cliff and it's going crazy. And as I said, it's now in the hands of a collective of people. And that's more worrying, I think, when we've decapitated a lot of their messaging through social media. So it's almost in some ways going rogue, which is not exactly what you want in this little community. First of all, we're going to, you've probably already seen this, but I just like it because it's just such a good reflection of who David Wilcock is, or should I say David Shilcock, and his wonderful false predictions. Nostradamus maybe is what we should call David Wilcock, because for someone who's made a career of making predictions, he doesn't do a very good job of it, ladies and gentlemen. He's a really bad guy at predicting anything. So the reincarnation of Edgar Casey, let's see what he said ahead of the Biden inauguration.
And this is Wednesday the 20th. Now, notice that Google is kind of making it easy for you, right? What they're thinking it's going to turn into, because it says the inauguration of JB 2021. No irony at all. No questioning of whether this is real. And then you go to the sidebar, it says, yeah, the inauguration of JB as the 46th President of the United States will mark the commencement of the 4-year term of JB as President and Kamala Harris as Vice President. There you go. So that is not what's going to be happening, folks. And I will tell you multiple reasons why that's not going to be happening.
Yeah, look at the smugness on his face here. David Shilcock, like David, I don't know why you make such bold predictions. I mean, guys, if you didn't already know, he did this in the year 2000. He said that we were going to ascend into light beings. You know, the Y2K bug and all that kind of shit was going to happen. Then he said the same thing in 2012 with the Mayan calendar. And that didn't happen either. But here he goes. He's going to make another bold prediction ahead of the 2020 election.
It's not going to be happening because everybody in the alliance is dead if they allow this to happen. And that's what we were told. Everybody is dead. They're going to get you, they're going to find you, and they're going to snuff you out.
They're going to get you, they're going to find you, and they're going to snuff you out. That's what David Wilcock said. If you're a big into the QAnon, he makes a little follow-up statement here, just doing a little bit of janitorial work, cleaning up his statements to make sure he doesn't, I guess, step over the line of what YouTube would want him to. But essentially, he's saying that anyone who's hardcore involved in the Q movement or feels like they're involved, he's putting the seed in their mind that if it happens to be that Joe Biden becomes the president of the United States and is inaugurated, that everyone's dead. Which, David, Nostradamus.
Okay, and I'm not talking about everybody like you guys in the audience. I'm talking about the key people who have been working on this. They know this, folks. You have to remember that. Everybody knows it's now or never. This is it, okay? So we're not talking about, oh, I wonder if something might happen, or, yeah, you know, I don't know. I'm not really, this is just another one of those things. David does a video and then nothing happens.
How can he say that? Like, David Wilcock, you have the IQ of a gnat at some times, because it's just such a bold thing to say, and you, my friend, have a track record of making some of the dumbest predictions that never come true. I can't believe that people flood this guy with their own cash.
Wait a minute. Freedom, back to the slide. Freedom is about to be restored like never before. What you're going to see is not a negative at all. I'm concerned about it, but honestly, I think the whole thing's going to go pretty smoothly, and I don't think it's going to take that long. Could be 3 days, could be 5 days, could be a week, could be 2 weeks. I doubt it's going to be much more than that based on what everybody seems to be thinking on the inside.
Okay, there we have it. The wonderful David Wilcock making a absolute dickhead of himself. But we wouldn't expect anything else with him, would we? Okay, so we get to the inauguration. It happens. Joe Biden is inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States of America. The immediate reaction was from a lot of Q people. They were disillusioned across social media, if they still had it at that point. The clampdowns from Twitter and Facebook started happening straight away after Donald Trump was evicted from not just the White House, but also his social media accounts. The clampdown started to happen on a lot of those key QAnon accounts. And you started to see from maybe some of the more Q supporters that they were starting to become a little bit disillusioned with the movement, what was going to happen. So this is our friend Jordan Seether, immediately after the inauguration, just sort of, I guess he's trying to keep the grift going. Yeah, he's trying to sort of hang in there. Hang in there, Jordan. It's all going to be okay. If you could only have looked ahead a week and see what's happening now in the Q movement, maybe this little video from him would have been a bit different. But here we go. Let's watch Jordan have a little bit of seethe, a little bit of cope, and a little bit of hope.
Well, this could actually be going down a good way. Get Biden in there, take Trump out of the picture, military starts to make moves. Heck, maybe some shit's going to go down with Biden, like he's going to start trying to bring forth such draconian laws that all the normies out there that just wanted Orange Man bad out of office, they're going to start thinking to themselves, oh man, I want the senile, demented one out of office. I want Trump back. Maybe that's what they'll start thinking. Maybe they'll start thinking, oh man, I'm not actually all that upset that the military's coming in and trying to remove Joe Biden. And I'm talking about the normies out there, even some Biden voters. Maybe Biden is controlled by the white hats.
For someone who talks a whole lot about authoritarian control and the left, and, you know, they're doing all this crazy stuff over there on the left, they're, you know, clamping down, they're censoring us. he seems awfully keen, and a lot of them do, for the military to somehow step in and take control. And to me, as a bit of a libertarian, socially, is that's kind of against. Like, it doesn't matter if you sit on the right or left spectrum. If you're for civil liberty, you don't want the military to come in there and just take control of things. And that's what's always fascinated me about the Q movement. It is a whole lot about, love and light and peace and, freedom. But it's also about the military just getting in there and taking control and having their own tribunals and things like that, which has never really lined up for me as making much sense. Okay, we get a little bit further into the week. Some things start happening. We've got our favourite here, Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. She's been punted from Twitter. I think it's a not a permanent suspension, at least at this point. But she's been sort of very vocal. She's been interviewing a whole lot of people, and she starts to flag a common trope, which I guess this is again earlier in the week. This is part of the movement in starting to get people to hold on to that hope. And for them, what they're trying to do is keep their supporters and keep the Q believers into this bigger picture that there's this whole interdimensional aspect to it, and it's a giant war that's going on behind the curtain. So let's listen to what Kerry says. I love the ending to this video. You've probably seen it before if you follow me on Twitter, but it is a gem.
This is going to continue, and if it has to come to civil war in the United States, then that's what's going to happen. But at the moment, it's important to know that Trump's parting words were that we'll be back in another form. So you can take that for whatever you want it to mean. That's when he was about to leave on Air Force One. But the bottom line is that we have been fighting this war in the United States since the Revolutionary War, and also since the Kennedy assassination, when the country was taken over, a coup d'etat took place, and a president was killed. And with that came a cementing of what you might call the New World Order and its satanic plan, the Luciferian satanic plan for humanity. So that's what we're part of. That's what we're fighting against. And therefore, it's also worth noting that President Trump was planning to dissolve the corporation, the United States corporation, that is basically linked to Great Britain and the Illuminati and maritime law, which is their law, and so on. And that's why you get the gold fringe on the flag. So this is all an ongoing battle. There are some wonderful speakers out there that have been telling you about the history, explaining why certain things are going on, etc. It's not so important that we know the details. It is enough to know that this is an ongoing war, that you're fighting for freedom, for human freedom, all around the world, that you're fighting to free the children from the underground bases, that you're fighting certain alien races that are in control, and certain AIs that are in control of the Chinese Communist Party, for example. The reptilian, the Draco, the Greys, and likely the spider beings.
Likely the spider beings. We've got a lot of those over here in Australia. Okay, this is what I call the roll-up. And it's where if you potentially started following Q, like if you had good intentions, you're a patriot over there in America, and you just start following this Q thing because it sounds great, because maybe you're on that side of politics, maybe you're on that side of, wanting those freedoms or wanting to believe in those ideals, I guess. And when you go down the rabbit hole, you come across characters like Kerry Cassidy, who bring you into the roll-up, which is taking all of the pre-existing aspects of woo, all of the pre-existing aspects of conspiracy theories across time, and start to roll up all of that together to the point where you might have started out this as a patriot with good intentions, you're a conservative, you're a Christian, whatever it might be. You start out at that point, and by the end of the rabbit hole, you get to the point where you've been subjected to this conspiratorial thought that you get to the point where you're believing in spider beings. Okay? And I know it sounds silly. I know it sounds silly to a lot of people who are not sort of going down these rabbit holes often, but as someone who's spent, a year monitoring, reporting on this kind of stuff, but also, doing a whole lot of research as well for my documentary, things like that, talking to a whole lot of people who have actually, been through the conditioning and the experience of these cult-like behaviors and thoughts. It is real, and that's the point that people get to. And I think what I tried to say at the start of this stream as well about the collective, about the action that we're moving to with Q, is that you've got 4 years or so of people who have been subjected to this conditioning, and they've had nothing happen on the surface. So what they're starting to do is to start to see action among all of the potential other avenues that Kerry talked a lot about here, which is all of the roll-up events, all of the historical, conspiratorial thoughts and ideas that have kicked around these communities on the internet for a long time, since the start of the internet and probably before then. Okay? So now, over the last few days, there has been a rise of a new theory of about the tearing apart of the corporation of America, and this thought and idea out there that Joe Biden was not inaugurated as the president of the United States of America, but he was inaugurated for the state of DC, and that is somehow part of this whole idea that the US corporation has been dissolved by Trump, that the country's been placed in the hands of the military, and that's what this transition has been about. It's been a transition to military power, not a transition to this new administration. And we get into these ideas and thoughts among these conspiracy characters where they're starting to project out there that the whole thing was staged. And this is where we've seen some of the conspiracy theories rise up around the inauguration event. It was all stitched together. It didn't happen. There was upside down crucifixes on the Bible, etc. And we're going to start to get into Kookyville with that as we watch these next few clips. And all of this is really ramped up in the last few days. If you've been monitoring the Q community, this is what has started to happen, guys. You really need to sort of get your head around this. And by the end of this stream, you're going to see some really out there stuff. Trust me. Okay, so here's Kerry's thoughts. A new narrative starts to build, is my commentary over the top of that. So, Kerry says, Trump's banks have closed his accounts. Trump is still in charge of the military. Biden is filming in California as he is in the Oval Office. Right? Biden signed executive orders, but they have not left his desk. Another theory floated out there, and it may get covered off by some of the people talking about it later, is that those executive orders were just blank pieces of paper, which is also debunkable because there was actually writing on those bits of paper. There was a lot of criticism amongst the conspiracy characters that he didn't hold them up to the camera like Trump does. There was writing on there. Of course, paper is light and glare when you've got lights on there as well. But in other footage and other still photographs, you can see that there's clearly writing on there. Back to Kerry's messages here. The military have told Trump to take a break and to prepare for the big battle that is about to begin. Okay, so we're starting to get in this thought pattern that something's going to happen again. Trump is still a threat, which is why the deep state are still attacking him. 800 officers from major to 4-star generals have sworn their allegiance to Trump. The explosion in Nashville was the use of a new weapon demonstrating what could happen to the deep state if Trump chooses to use it. From a source. As Kerry always does, it's just like a source. Okay, so there's another problem with these guys, is putting out so much information, and they think they're doing a good job. They're like, we're going to put it out there as soon as we get it. Well, that's not really helping anyone, because if it's just from a source, it could be, it could be some guy I meet down at the pub and he says some wacky story and I go and post it to my 40,000 followers like Kerry has as fact. It's not a good idea. It's never been a good idea. Okay, but we can start to see that this narrative is starting to build in this community. Then we start to see this references back, links back to the Q drops. And as Kerry was doing before, links back to invented history and all these other conspiratorial angles. Easy for me to say. Okay, so then this theory starts to float around the Q drops. What if it had to happen this way? What if Biden becomes president of the United States of America? And here we start to see some of the Q followers link in all those Q-type questions. How do you safeguard elections post-Trump? If domestic agent traitor is elected to presidency, US military takes over government, institutes martial law, shuts off propaganda arms, communicates through EBS, and conducts military tribunals. This is the only way to red pill Main Street into understanding how corrupt American politics has become. Sometimes you have to walk through the darkness to see the light. And again, some kickbacks to Christianity and faith and things like that as well. So it's starting to get some legs here, right? With this whole theory that, what if this had to happen this way? And then we start to see it even grow more. It moves from maybe it's needed to happen this way to it's happening. Okay, now every little event that's going on in the world, and we saw it with blackouts at the Vatican, or in Rome, I should say, Italy. And, obviously the other day yesterday, all the days are rolling into one, ladies and gentlemen, with all this Q craziness. Any little blackout event, any little photo opportunity that they can pick up and try to weave an angle towards is starting to turn into their own validation for them and their supporters that this is actually happening. Okay, and again, referencing back to where I started this presentation with this idea of we're moving from Q drops into Q action, this Q collective. It's happening. That's the constant messages that are going out to these people. It's happening. It's happening. Okay, now we start to see some more messages around a new inauguration date for the real president. Okay, so Joe Biden's, not only is he apparently a clone according to a lot of these people, but he's not the real inaugurated president. He was inaugurated president of DC and not much more according to most of these Q supporters. But there's also this messaging around the military will bring in a new inauguration date around March 4 as the new date where the real president, Donald Trump, will be will be inaugurated as president of the new republic. And that is what a lot of the information kicking around these Q communities is saying, is that there's this whole new constitution for a republic of the United States now that the corporation of the United States has been dissolved. And I could share a lot of that information. Look, maybe I will at some point. But really, you can get lost into it. There's all these documents and, pacer document searches that people have been doing on the corporation of the United States and its origins and its links to China. And to be honest, guys, it just gets so fucking crazy. It's so deep to get into. I'd rather show the reaction of what people are saying and, across social media, but also what the leaders of the Q communities are saying. Okay, but here we see a lot of people starting to sort of perpetuate that message around March 4 is going to be the new inauguration date where Donald Trump will be inaugurated by the military as the president of the Republic of America. You're right, Lee, there in chat. And hello to everyone who's joined. I'd like to remind everyone, if you're enjoying this stream, please like and share it. This channel, again, it's been dormant for a while. We've done 7 weeks now, and I'm looking to do this every week as we cover not just QAnon, but all the funny, crazy conspiracy rabbit holes across the internet and internet culture in itself. So please do slap a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please share the channel with anyone who you think might be interested in this kind of content, because I think it's a really good reality check. It's a really good, it's easy for a lot of us who are involved in these communities across the internet. It's easy for some of the people that we're associated with to get a little bit carried away with some of this flood of information that's in there. So if you do know of anyone who has shown tendency to believe a lot of this stuff, please do share it with them, because I think it would be good for them to, I'm not trying to insult anyone here as well, as much as I do like to laugh at David Wilcock and Jordan Sather and the likes. We're not really trying to, laugh at the people at the end of the pipeline of these conspiracy theories. We're actually trying to shine the light on, a lot of this information, where it comes from and what it actually means. Okay, back to the slide. So we've got our new inauguration date, which is being peddled around. So this theory is starting to get some real legs, based on not a whole lot of real information, based on some circulation from a lot of these people about this dissolving of the United States corporation, and there being a new creation of a new republic that's going to be led by Trump, inaugurated on March 4. Some people have already said that inaugurations actually happen behind closed doors. Let's go to the next slide. So now this really kicks up, and this kicks up around the fact that this is true, by the way. The Germany Diplo, the Foreign Office there in Germany, put out this tweet congratulating, I guess, the United States on rejoining the Paris Agreement, and Joe Biden and the new government and things like that. They actually used a photo. They did do this. I went and checked and verified it for myself. They did use this picture, which is actually a picture from the set of Castle Rock Pictures in the US, which was used in a lot of movies, TV shows where, I can't remember the exact movies. You guys can probably point it out there in chat. I'm not a big movie or TV buff. But I do know that this set was used for a lot of different, TV shows and movies where obviously you've got people acting as the president and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like a permanent or semi-permanent set there at Castle Rock Pictures in California. And that's where we get a lot of the information around people saying that Joe Biden's not really there in DC, guys. He's actually in California and he's filming these things. And then we get conflicting information amongst that community that, Joe Biden's a clone because he's got different earlobes and different eye colors and things like that. So it's getting really crazy. It's ramping up, but this whole narrative has started to build, and it's perpetuated around the fact, from these people's point of view, that you are watching a movie. This is all a staged event, right? So again, they track it back and link it back to Q's drops earlier, and Q's mention of Castle Rock, which is also a chess move, of course, for those who know. But they point out some discrepancies in like the shapes of windows, the trim, the wallpaper between where Biden was, and for whatever reason there are some real discrepancies in that. I don't know. I'd like to see some real information about it, rather than being presented these, pictures from Castle Rock and related to Q drops. So if anyone in the chat, please do share that with me. If you have any further information, I'd love to sort of put that out there as well. But for the meantime, we'll regard that as Q fiction. And now we start to see all this narrative come together. We see it started to come together with the usual suspects in the Q world, the identities that are out there that have been there for the long time, for the long haul, peddling these theories. Okay, so you already know that these guys have got a lot invested in the conspiracy angles, so they're going to want it to be real. Okay, and we see here Simon Park's top right hand corner, I forget the guy's name at the bottom, Vino, something like that. And top left we have Dr. Charlie Ward, which another interesting thing. We know it's a long time thing in the ufology world and conspiracy world of people calling themselves doctors. I had a bit of a look into Charlie Ward, and I can't really work out what he's actually a doctor of, because according to his resume on his public website, his career has consisted of a long time in the hotel or that sort of industry. He makes no mention of his credentials as a doctor, what he's a doctor of, does he have a doctorate, is it a PhD? I would think that that's quite important if you're calling yourself Dr. Charlie Ward. You guys might know in chat, feel free to share that. I'll call it out if I see it. But we start to see this narrative settle in. When you start to get agreement and confluence amongst these speakers and peddlers out there, once they get onto a narrative, they start to agree upon it, and then that's perpetuated in the community as well. I'll stop talking, have a little drink for a minute, because I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied as we move through this. But let's listen to the guys
agree
talk
with you.
here.
There was no relief or excitement. It really was, they were looking over their shoulder every 5 minutes.
This is something that was sent to me just now.
Okay.
The farewell speech had gold trim flags. He is transferring administration out of the District of Columbia, where the corporation was formed, and it will gain power by Biden tomorrow and will be considered a hostile relationship between the state of an occupied territory and the occupying power, which is why they have all the troops there. 11.3 following that by his executive order of 2018 on seizing of assets. Well, DC has been fenced in, so it's now regarded as a foreign territory with foreign assets. And this has caused foreign interference in our election. They can seize everything and anything from the candidate that certifies or is part of the certifying of a fraudulent election. This will all go out in the public view, and we'll have no communication from the president because the military is now in control due to the Insurrection Act. Biden will be virtually inaugurated into this foreign entity, and the US Marshals will seize everything and hold tribunals at the Capitol, which is why the tents are set up as a makeshift prison. Trump will be sworn in as the 19th president of the 1776 Constitution on March the 4th. Hence the flags now on the Capitol.
That makes sense to me. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm really good at reading body language, and not one of them there looked like they wanted to be there.
Well, number one, Nino, is that I received the live speech, the live inauguration. I received it at 7:00 Spanish time.
Okay. Good point there in the chat, Lee. That guy has links to 107, which is another identity which I haven't included in this presentation. He's referenced a few times in different places, and perhaps in the next week I'll dig a little bit further into him. He's a guy, he's an anonymous kind of guy out there, saying a lot of stuff, predicting a lot of stuff, claiming he's got some sort of special contact. Always pictured wearing cowboy boots, or it's just like a profile shot of his cowboy boots out there peddling stuff. But just dwelling on those statements a little bit, a couple of the things don't start making sense when they get into this. They're all comparing notes and they're coming to this collective understanding of what's going on or what they think is going on. If it's being shot over there in Castle Rock in California, then what's the point of fencing in DC? Okay. If you're gonna try and arrest these guys, why are they manning the underground tunnels in DC with troops and blocking their path and locking them in if they're over there in California doing it, right? That doesn't make sense. And of course we know that Biden and Kamala Harris have made visits to local DC institutions and things like that. So it's just doesn't make sense. Like, if they were locked in, they've already been out publicly in wider DC, and also it doesn't follow the theory that they're over there in California sitting on a movie set. So again, just more holes in this whole thing. But the important thing is not as much as, you know, me trying to make fun of it or us trying to laugh at it, but the fact that they're believing it, they're on board with this as a reality. It's the new reality according to them. Interesting stream that happened the other day was with Jean-Claude from Beyond Mystic, with a few divine feminines here apparently, and his co-host there, Dave. They talked a lot about this whole United States as a corporation dissolving, the establishment of a republic that Trump's somehow going to lead. But during this stream, there was a lot of kooky kind of moments. I just like this one because this lady who calls herself the Grief Goddess, she's got a whole sort of platform built around, grief. Unfortunately, her son died, I think, which is an awful event. Not wishing to make light or make fun of that at all. But here she's kind of going off script a little bit. And I'll just let you guys watch.
We right now are under a military coup d'etat in America, and anyone who thinks anything different is really delusional. I do know the CCP is involved.
Just note that as well. Like, if anyone thinks any different, they're delusional. Again, this is what starts to happen once a few people start saying one thing. It gets perpetuated amongst a group. And then there is almost this groupthink that forms. And that's why I say it's moving out of the Q-drop world into reality world in their minds, right? So it's into action. It's into a collective thought. Oh. Sorry. Just David Wilcock that. So
we right now are under a military coup d'etat in America. And anyone who thinks anything different is really delusional. I do know the CCP is involved, and of course we have the central banks. Our government is being taken over as we speak, and I lay my life on that. Number two,
you have to be very sure to lay your life on something. Just saying.
This alleged inauguration that we supposedly had was a satanic ritual. Okay, I do not say that lightly because I have been involved in satanic situations, and little things like I believe, now this is not a fact, but the Bible that Biden was involved in was not the King James version of the Bible, which is typically been used by every president since time immemorial that I could verify. Okay. Now, granted, none of us are standing on the steps of the Capitol, but if you look back through my lifetimes, they always use the King James version to put their hand on the Bible. So we don't even really know, because it was a pre-recorded inauguration, really what went on there.
Again, no proof that this was pre-recorded. There's, Charlie Ward says he got the stream, somehow it streamed in Spain 7 hours or 10 hours or something like that ahead of it being happening in the United States, but offers no proof of that. So, take that with a grain of salt. It's probably actually quite an easy thing to prove as well, by just contacting some Spanish media or Spanish identities or someone over there with some sort of credibility that you could lean on. But again, like a lot of Amy's statements there, it falls into the roll-up, falls into the collective Q roll-up that's starting to happen, bringing in aspects of Christianity, this fear of satanic panic in there as well. So it's starting to roll up some of those things, and we get into, Kerry Cassidy, of course, it turns into the aliens, interdimensional, and all of a sudden we've got this, collective theory going on. Back to our friend here, Simon Parkes. He's on a talk show, conservative talk show with Doug Billings, I think is the guy's name. He kind of, I mentioned him in a tweet and he responded negatively, and then he deleted his tweet and then just said thanks. So I'm hoping that, this guy seems to have I don't know a whole lot about him. You guys might know more in chat, but it seems like he's got a conservative kind of show that's not focused on so much woo-woo stuff, but he's obviously been roped into this ideology that Simon Parkes and others are pushing out about the QAnon stuff, maybe through hope or maybe through whatever else, but hopefully he's seeing the light that, Simon Parkes is some guy sitting in his office there. He's a driving instructor, former counsellor over there in the UK. How and why would any government trust him to be the messenger for their secrets? It just makes complete zero sense once you think about it. But let's see what Simon is saying on the Doug Billings show.
When the cameras were not obviously on people like Obama and Clinton, their faces were doom and gloom.
Oh, yes. It looked like
And
a
that
funeral.
is because it's what we call a sword of Damocles. It's a poison chalice. They have not got what they thought they've got. And I'm going to share something else with you, audience, and no one else knows this, and I only got this a few hours ago, so Doug, I'm going to let you know.
All right.
And so it's a first on your show, and I haven't even done it on my podcast.
Okay.
That
Breaking
is-
news.
Breaking news, and that is that I keep wanting to calling him President Trump. Trump is still signing executive orders and passing them to the military. And Trump
What?
signed an executive order because in the executive order of 2018 and the one he updated in 2019, he is the commander-in-chief. It doesn't matter what's happened. So Trump is actually writing executive orders to the military. So you
Wow.
have two governments in America, and that is why. And the mainstream news announced that Biden had written 14 executive orders.
Yes, right. To cover the.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can tell you that he hasn't, or if he has, they haven't left his desk.
Interesting. Well, you're
They
okay.
haven't left his desk. Okay.
And that's astonishing on many levels. A lot to think about and a lot to take in right there, Simon.
Okay, problem with this, as far as any journalist would note, is that there's no sort of critical questioning. We're taking that as fact from a guy who's sitting over there in the UK. No provable links to any sort of government insiders or sources. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, but it does because it does to these people, I should say, because they want to believe it. They want it to be reality. Okay, so that's where this collective mindset is coming from, moving into collective action as opposed to information dropping. Now, this is some of the scariest stuff that I came across. This is one of Simon's more blog videos that he posted specifically for his community, which he calls collective consciousness or something like connecting consciousness. That's it. Over there in the UK. And apparently, I don't know about the numbers, but just the way he speaks about it in these videos, it seems like there are a lot of people, maybe Spooky you might know over there, if this is actually a real sort of significant thing. In fact, I did get a query from someone today to get back to them about some of the videos involved over here in the media over there in the UK. But this whole organization that he has going on and the information style that he's putting out there, he's got a structure. He's got an organizational structure with this connecting consciousness establishment. And one of the worrying things, and it always worries me when you start to see any sort of messaging about ascension, it worried me with David Wilcock, it worried me with Corey Good, it worried me with Heaven's Gate, and there are a lot of things that Simon Parkes says in this video that do seem a little bit Heaven Gates-esque, where he is talking about the fact that, well, not the fact that, but, obviously he thinks it's a fact, that not everyone is going to make it through this process. And the messaging as well to a lot of these people, and some of the videos I've shown before in other parts of the longer extended videos that I haven't been able to capture in this stream, another constant thing that they say is, trust yourself, listen to your inner voice, don't listen to your friends and family, cut them off. And that to me just seems like there's one thing that you don't immediately cut off, and that's family and friends. And if anyone is asking you to do that, that's the first sign that you're involved in some sort of cult-like mentality, right? Anyway, let's listen to Simon as he navigates his way through this one.
And if a person is meant to wake up, when faced with a choice, they will wake up. And so, you're on the right path. Just don't be put off by people, because actually it's not about having the last laugh, because that really is terribly third dimensional, but it is about saying that I should be proud that I held true to what I know is the truth. And in your hearts that you're right. And you mustn't buy in to all of the nonsense that's taking around you. And ultimately, a proportion of humanity will go on to the fifth dimension. So that's what I wanted to say to you.
Okay, so proportion will. Not everyone's going to survive this. It just reeks, ladies and gentlemen, of some of that earlier disasters and tragedies that we've seen across times with cult-like mentalities. Okay, we're getting there. I'm trying to get through because there is so much good stuff to get through, and I don't know, I don't want to keep you guys for hours and hours. I don't like to keep my streams like that. I am not a bloviating kind of person. I like to edit things. I like to keep them concise as possible, which is always the battle with me. Anyway, let's keep going. Some more worrying signs is following the sort of biblical Christianity angle. I saw this one on a group called the True Great Awakening on Telegram there. It has grown more than 220,000 subscribers on Telegram in, I think it was probably a little bit more than 3 days, about 3.5, 4 days, which is just incredible when you think about it. And they're there asking for Bitcoin in every second post as well, which is also a sign of a scam. But look, this account is just going biblical and bananas. It's posting every 5 minutes on Telegram there, some information. This one I found concerning, just given the amount of people that it's going out to. They say some of the members of the church are ready to start a fiery revival. We need every community across our country to light the fires of a fiery revival. It will spread across our nation, and our nation will influence the world. Every journey starts with one small step. Consider taking that step where you live and worship. We the people have the power. We the people can change our communities. We the people can change our nation. We the people can change the world. God gave the power to we the people. It is time to remind all who has the power. Hashtag God wins. Wow. Okay, that's where I'm sort of saying this whole sort of it's going to be biblical stuff, and we're talking about a fiery revival. If you're a hardcore Christian wound up into the Q community and you are hearing these messages, even if you're not, like the most Christian of person, if you're wound up in this whole QAnon world, they're starting to call for action, right? Whether you interpret that as physical fires that you light in your communities or a fiery revival in people's hearts and minds. Either way, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we've got a few clips here with another doctor. Would you believe another doctor? You guys already might know him. Jim Willie. Dr. Jim Willie. And he is a bit of a Willie. He's a real Willie. This guy, man, we're just going to have to laugh at him because he thinks he's a super genius of the world and he's some sort of guru out there with an important message to send to everyone. I got news for him. He's actually a real jerk. And you probably know that if you've listened to half the words that have come out of his mouth again. But here we have John Claude back again, platforming these guys. And hey, look, if he wants to platform them, that's fine. It just lets us see just what actual fuckheads these people are. So let's listen to Dr. Jim Willie. And I should note his doctorate is a PhD in statistics. So, genius level here, right?
Yeah, the inauguration. January 6th was the raid of the Capitol building. It was all staged, and it's beginning to be understood now. On January 20th, the inauguration event, let's just call it that, the inauguration event. I was pretty down. I wanted to vomit. I had a big lump in my throat. And after a couple hours, I just left the office and enjoyed the sunshine, because now our summer had begun in Costa Rica. And it basically begins around, Christmas or January 5th, right in there it starts. And it's 75 degrees, like right now. 75 degrees, a light breeze, and pure sun. Thank you very much. So I like to get out there because it's good for the spirits to have a little sun. Now, here, the same thing happened on both those days, Jan 6th and Jan 20. The next day, by noon, all the bad feeling went away. The logic took over. The evidence came into the room, and I no longer felt really bad. In fact, I thought it was all pretty funny. I mean, these are clowns. We're dealing with Biden. They don't call him Sleepy Joe for nothing. It's because he doesn't know where he is half the time. It's because he doesn't really know what's going on. It's because he's a fool. It's because he's a puppet. And
I had someone say to me when I was talking to them about Jim Willie that he kind of looks like Hannibal Lecter, like if he was on coke or something and from New York. Thought that was funny.
He might actually be aware that if this all continues, they're going to kill him. His own people are going to kill him. Now, you told me before we began that you've done a lot of background work, and I'm going to give you some of my interpretation of, the structure of the U.S. government, because this is not part and parcel. This is the nucleus. This is the centerpiece about what's going on. Let me begin by saying that I made a forecast 5 days ago. Hi, Jenny.
Oh, and there's also a gentleman that kept reaching out to me. Everybody was worried. Where's Jim? Where's Jim? We haven't seen him. We're worried about him. And this person, Rich Siegel, says, "Say hi to Jim from Rich in Pennsylvania." And he says he had been in contact with you before through the Hatchet letter and all that. So people were just worried where you were.
Well, I'm buried in all this bullshit. I mean, come on. Right. We're making history now. These are not typical times. Okay, let me tell you what my little forecast was. I haven't written a public article in, 3 months. It's because I do interviews and I'm trying to understand what's going on. I was immersed as of mid-November in all of this. Hi, Litecoin Lisa. And my quick summary is, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted by your messages that come by. That's okay, though. I'll ignore them. I just won't look at them.
You're just getting all this love from all these people.
But Litecoin Lisa is so cute.
She's very distracting. She was on the show yesterday with two other amazing divine feminines. One was Amy Fulmer, and of course, Mariam Henin were on the show, and we were breaking down a lot of this constitutional law stuff and this USA corporate background.
Yeah, I'd like to break her down. Anyway, but she's probably...
Yeah, he's got the Christian cross there in the background, so he's, good Christian talking about wanting to break down Litecoin Lisa there. What a jerk.
Married. Okay, here's my crazy forecast, Jean-Claude.
All right.
Because this is kind of funny. I told my good buddies and, my clients. Oh, shit, I'm sorry. I told my colleagues and my buddy list. I've got 30 people on the buddy list. I just kicked 2 off because they're being stupid. And they're being very impatient. Oh, why can't this be simpler? What the hell's simple about this? Anyway, here's my forecast 5 days ago. Get ready for 2 presidents. And I had 2 or 3 people say, Jim, that's really crazy. I said, of course it's crazy. What do you think's going on? This is all crazy. I said, Biden is going to be the president in the fantasy world, and Trump is going to be president.
Believe me, guys, it gets even worse. Gets even worse from this creature.
President of the real world, and Biden has now become quite clear to be president of the little city-state that I hear is about 10 square miles. The Vatican is 1 square mile. Washington is about 10 square miles. Biden is president of the city of Washington, D.C., that has now been disconnected from the nation. Trump is now the president of the 50 states that is lacking a capital.
Just the maniacal laugh there as well from Mr. Willie. It's just the perfect name for such an asshole. Okay, here we go with the next clip from him. And I think this is the one where he gets a little bit upset. Little guy.
That the mask has a density that's 10,000 times larger than the size of a virus. Do you even know what a virus is? And I just got obnoxious. I finally said, well, after this conversation, Senora, I'm more convinced than before that you're an idiot. Have a good day. You know, this is how I've gotten.
This guy's just like the epitome of love and light, isn't he?
When you try to destroy my country, my economy, my society, I get angry. And
Jim,
this is no time to be civil.
No,
Not
I agree with
at
you.
all.
I agree
This
with
is-
you. You were
Yeah, I agree with you. Good one there, John Claude. You're a bastion there. You're a bastion of love and light and spirituality, buddy. Okay. All right, we're heading to the final video, I think, with our friend here, Jim, and Dr. Jim, I should say. And we're going to see him actually implode when he gets the slightest bit of kickback or criticism from those in the live chat who actually gave him good critique and feedback, because he started spouting that the crucifixes on the Bible that Joe Biden was laying his hand on were upside down, and he was saying that was actually fact, when the truth is that no, that was a photoshopped fucking meme. Jim, you absolute fucking nut. Here we go.
I try not to be separated from reality, and I think I do pretty well at that. I got to mention something a lady put up. What about these foreign governments?
hold on just a second. Let's get into that. There's a comment here. They're saying CBC coverage of the inauguration. The cross was not upside down. He did not remove his hand. Okay.
Okay, that's a very fair comment there from Charlene Sapient. Charlene, I'd like you to come and just watch our streams as well, because listening and watching this shit doesn't really help you unless you're wanting to laugh at it like me. Okay, here we go.
I've said this many times on this show here over the last couple of weeks. We are trying to decipher the events that are before us. Sometimes we will err. Sometimes we're having these out loud conversations, and we're trying to do our best to piece the puzzle together. So as opposed to telling us what did not happen, please share your opinions on your own YouTube channels as what you think happened, and let's contribute to building a better puzzle for everyone here. That's the point of this show. And of course, warnings abound. We are having a live adult conversation here, and we're trying to figure things out. We're not saying that we know 100% what is going on. Neither Jim nor I have made that claim, although other YouTubers have, and I've placed my opinion on that already. Jim, back to you.
Okay, Charlene Sapient, is CBC your ultimate source of news? Give me a break! Go back to your closet. We're trying to do something serious here. Gaslighting? Why don't you go ahead and put your mask on so you can avoid the $100 fine in Canada? Get lost! I'm tired of you shitty ass people. We're trying to have a serious conversation. Do you mind? You don't even know what gaslighting is. If CBC is your source, go eat a yard of my shit. Okay, can we continue? Let me,
Back to the question of the audience asking you about the mass resignations around the planet. I think that's where...
Pretty shocking stuff there. And also from Jean-Claude, just like, allowing his audience to be treated like that. What an absolute fucking tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
there are a few events out there. By the way, I saw a Bible with an inverted crucifix. Okay.
You saw it because you're an absolute moron there, Dr. Jim, and you saw a Photoshop job done on 4chan or 8chan or something like that, and you're taking that as fact because you think the media is so biased and lies to you so much that they would put that out across multiple agencies across the world, that the crucifixes were the right way up. Buddy, you got problems, man.
Trying to find it again. There are a bunch of different events. A very big event.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brad Gray. You have to laugh at this shit. And look, I am as well. Apart from the fact that if it wasn't so serious that a lot of people are watching this guy and they're clapping him and applauding him and thinking he's somehow the great arbiter of truth. I mean, this guy's a joke. He is. He's an absolute joke, and you just have to laugh. But I thought you would enjoy that, guys. I thought you would enjoy the craziness that's existing out there amongst these guys. They're getting crazy, and this is what I started to try and tell you at the top of this show, was that everything is ramping up. We're getting out of the world of Q drops and into the world of Q action and Q collective craziness. And this is what I see only ramping up. People thought towards the end of last year that this whole Q thing, this whole conspiracy thing was going to go off a cliff, was going to trail off and was going to disappear into the middle of the ocean and die a slow and peaceful death. Well, no way. Not when you've got people like this out there that are stoking the fires of emotion. And that emotion energy is going to continue across the rest of this year and probably hit a crescendo at some point. And hopefully these morons don't incite action that's violent or, detrimental to people. Okay. Last clip, and I don't know how many people have actually seen this, and I'd like to show the full clip, but you know what, then again, I might just put out the link in the chat for you guys to go and watch it in your own time. I'll cover off the intro. But in case you didn't know, I haven't seen any sort of media coverage around this. The Q shaman, the guy with the horns and the craziness there at the Capitol building on January 6th, standing in the house and raising his fist, he's actually been putting out content for a long time, I should say. Easy for me to say. But he also uploaded a video recently. And he talked about, we heard the media articles about him requesting the vegan meals there in jail and all the other kooky stuff that the media does put out. That's not particularly important, but this is particularly important because we get to see this guy at his crazy level and where we're at. And this is where it's all... this week has been a perfect build-up to this moment where this guy's putting out this content, because it just shows you how collectively grouped everything is together. All these speakers and people out there saying this stuff about the divided states, the two governments, the inauguration in March, and all this information, it's captured by the Q shaman. He's the absolute roll-up. If Kerry Cassidy was the master of rolling up interdimensional and Christianity and politics into a narrative, listen to this guy.
What is up, everybody? I'm Yellowstone Wolf, aka Captain America. I did that to get your guys' attention, and I certainly hope that it did. It looks like it did. I mean, I am definitely Captain America, and I haven't been given that title lightly, trust me on that. But part of the reason why I came forward in this way and, caused a little quote-unquote disruption in the Q community here is to get your guys' attention. Because whether or not you know it, whether or not you believe it, I am from the highest levels. I am talking to you on behalf of the highest levels of the government and the military. Okay? I in particular am working with the Navy. I've been a part of the Navy's Super Soldier program for quite some time.
Yeah, you heard it right. He's a super soldier. He's another super soldier, right? Wow, just wow.
And I have been communicating with them regarding this quote-unquote plan that has actually been in place for quite some time before the Q movement ever took place, okay? And what I'm doing in this video is I'm bringing you the quote-unquote plan that we have been asking you guys to trust for so long, and where you fit in it, why you fit in it where you do, and hopefully this is a good enough relay of information to where we can really move forward as a civilization.
No, Spooky, this is not before the 6th. This is, I think, first posted maybe a few days ago.
Okay, I'm talking like next level stuff, like free energy. I'm talking about anti-gravity craft. I'm talking about medical cures, these 5,000 disruptive patents, okay, that need to be released to the public. And the only way that that's going to happen is if we demand it, okay? So if you're not going to watch any more of this video, if you're just going to shut me down in the first few minutes, this is the plan. I'm going to get into far more detail in the video if you want to stick around. But here's the plan, you guys. While you're talking with your friends and family at Easter, okay, what you need to be talking to them about are the 3 patents that the Navy just released to the public. One for an anti-gravity craft called TR-3B, okay, a TR-3B anti-gravity craft. It's a triangle, okay, that we've had for quite some time. That's patent number 1. Patent number 2 is what is known as a 0-point free energy device, okay? We're talking about like a generator about this big that produces more energy in a single day than the largest nuclear power plant does in this whole country in a single year, okay? So more energy in one day than a nuclear power plant does in a year. That's the level of technology we were talking about that was released to the public by the Navy. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm coming from the Navy. I'm telling you that the Navy is releasing these patents. The final patent that they released is something known as a room temperature superconductor that allows this free energy device to operate without, quote unquote, overheating at any point. Okay, and if you combine these 3 things, the room temperature superconductor, the free energy device, and the TR-3B anti-gravity craft together, then you get the Space Force.
Spooky, yeah, it's definitely new. Yeah, and he's speaking, of course, about the Salvatore Pius, what's the word I'm looking for? The patents that were released, and they're quite old, and there's some by other people as well. He's talking about these... yeah, like the free energy device, the TR-3B, and the room temperature superconductor. Now these, for you guys in the chat, you guys know about them. Anyone listening wider in the video that's potentially not aware, these have been long-standing kind of tropes out there in the ufology world. They are definitely patents. You can go ahead and look them up over there on Google, and you can read all about them and read about the authors. And there was an interesting article actually on the Drive, I think it was, which they actually contacted Salvatore Pius and talked about that information and as well. So there is a bit of background on this information, and there is some truth to it. However, there's no proof that these things actually work or exist, and that's the big problem with them. But let's hear a little bit more.
This is where we get the Space Force. So while you're at Easter, talk about the Space Force. Talk about getting this technology to the public. Talk about the fact that this is what we're doing, that this is a real thing, that this is the future. Because everybody likes hearing about the future. Everybody likes the idea of going out into space. Okay, nobody's going to want to hear about these dumbs being destroyed with earthquake machines, or children being rescued, or Satanists drinking adrenochrome. They don't want to hear that. No, I mean, we didn't want to hear it. And think about like trying to tell other people that are like really asleep. Okay, they don't want to hear that stuff. What they do want to hear, though, is about the future. They want to hear about us going out into space. They want to hear about free energy, so not ever having to pay for gas, not ever having to pay for electricity.
And yeah, Spooky definitely knew, because like obviously you hear there with his messaging around, you know, talk about this with your families and friends at Easter. This is definitely new stuff.
Again, okay, not ever having to pay to say like pay a toll at a bridge or on a road. Okay, that essentially we're talking about flying craft all over the globe, going from London to LA in the snap of a finger, from Hong Kong to Paris in the snap of a finger. Okay, that's what we are talking about here, you guys. We're talking about the future of humanity. So this is what the plan is. Okay, we're going to get in a little more into depth as to why this is the plan, why we're choosing to do this now, what exactly it is that the bigger picture looks like from our perspective, and how each individual American, yourself, myself, and everybody in the world actually fits into this on like a global scale, and they're either playing for one side or the other, whether or not they know it. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. That's what we're going to get into detail about. So let's get started, okay? Okie dokie. So let's start with the idea that you guys have done so well. We are so proud of you. We are so happy that you guys have come this far. All right. It's been quite the journey. Many of you haven't necessarily understood all the comms or all the communications or seen the patterns, but that's okay.
Oop. Sorry about that, guys. Spooky, yeah, I will link this in the chat as we close out as well. Let me just get that video. I'll skip ahead.
What is up, everybody? I'm Yellow.
I will let you guys watch this in your own time because I've got other things to do today as well. But he does get a little bit maniacal when you go through this as well. Like he's talking about all of the different aspects of the plan and what they want to do with the Space Force and you know, free energy and who the Cabal is, what they've been doing. What else does he talk about? You know, how the Satanism aspect. So he's actually hitting upon a whole heap of points that the likes of Kerry Cassidy and others have been talking about for some time. It's like he's basically gone ahead and rounded up all of this information that's existed out there in conspiracy land, and you know, maybe he's trying to craft this into a grift of his own. I actually think he's just quite crazy, you know, like he is quite crazy. He gets really maniacal here in some of these later moments. At the start there, he was quite calm, clear. He was speaking quite well. As we get towards the end here, I'll just show you a little bit more. Let's see if we can hit a point where he's starting to go cray.
Different times that sought their age, or that were for their age, much the way that I am doing now. Yes, I'm calling myself a prophet of quote-unquote God in the same way, you guys. And I don't shy away from that either. I'm here to help. I'm here to guide this process of moving from these really low, polluted, nasty frequencies based off of fear, based off of chaos, based off of pain and panic, destruction and death, into higher frequency realms of light, of love, of peace, of harmony, of symbiosis, of truth, of justice, of loyalty, of freedom. These will be the emphasis for our new civilization. These will be the common traits, the common treasures in this new heaven on earth. What I'm talking about is helping individuals to liberate themselves spiritually in a way that might terrify some people and might excite others, in a way that may be controversial, yes, for sure, but isn't the truth always controversial? Because so many people are swimming in a sea of lies. So many people don't understand what's actually going on in reality, that they leave it up to other people, whether it be politicians or...
Sorry, just realised I was muted as well. Gonna blame all this on you, Spooky, making me go and check things and get links and reset things. Now I'm like David Wilcock, showing the wrong screen. Damn you! Alright, I'll just show the last little bit, and then Spooky, you can wait for your link. I'll get it when I'm good and ready.
Going on in reality, that they leave it up to other people, whether it be politicians or scientists or priests or whatever, to tell them what's going on, what actually is fucking going on. And I'm here to just tell you, no, guys, this is how it works. If you just do this, and this, you got it. It's not all that hard. You just got to put the puzzle together like this, and it works. This is the lion lying down with the lamb. I am prostrating myself before you, the world going to hell in a handbasket, and telling you I love you, telling you that, you know, we love you at the highest levels. We love you guys. We always have, and we have fought to protect you, and we have been fighting and dying to protect you guys for so long. Since before Kennedy. Abraham Lincoln gave his life for a very similar cause to the one that we're fighting now, just during his time, you guys. He was like a white hat, okay? JFK, Eisenhower, Reagan, in many cases. How you know who the white hats are is who they try to kill. Okay, or who they smear like a mofo in the media, which is pretty much what they've tried to do with Trump. They've pretty much tried to assassinate him with lies. They've tried to smear his image with fallacy, with non-truth. And it hasn't worked. If anything, what it's done is it is exposed. And this is, I think, the final point that I'd like to make. And this is something I think might help all of you to feel just a little bit better regarding the opposition and how to deal with the opposition. Because sometimes, you know, you guys, believe me, I know, sometimes it's like, dude, how could you be so dense? You know? Or how could you believe that? But that's only because we have an informed understanding. And when we conduct ourselves in a way that is calm, that is collected, that is passionate, but at the same time humble and controlled, then we begin to get people to look at us and go, huh, I wonder what their thing is. I wonder what he's all about or she's all about.
Okay, I think we've heard enough there. You can go ahead and do your own viewing of that. I've put the link there in the live chat for you guys to check out. Last of all, just thought always like to end on a bit of a humorous angle. Okay, so just putting a few little memes that I've noticed there, undercooked memes, boomer memes over there on Gab, and Gab's been, you know, like half working lately for me. Don't know if anyone else has had those issues, but there you go. There's just some boomer memes going out there to all of the QAnon types over there on Gab. Okay, guys, I think I might leave you there. If there's any final questions or anything in the live chat, feel free to put it there. Happy Australia Day to all of my fellow Australians over there in the live chat. Yeah, looks like it's going to be a pretty quiet day. Most of the shops are shut, so going to be just doing some work around the house, I think, you guys. How can you be so dense? Yeah, I don't know. Gab works great for you. Well, Spooky, I think you're just special. I think you are just a very special person. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here into my virtual house. Thanks for joining me to have a look back at the last week. And it's just, yeah, like I think this whole thing is starting to ramp up. I think we should all keep a close eye on it. Feel free to share things with me over there on Twitter. I'm quite active. And yeah, if you've got anything, yeah, please feel free. Send me a DM, tweet it out. Don't be shy. But yeah, look, thank you very much for coming to watch. If you haven't already, slap a like on the video. Share it with a friend if you think it's going to add value. And have a good day. Have a good evening, wherever you are. And farewell.